What's up, world? Let me tell you about this beard growth oil I got from 12 tribes on Earth. 8 ounces of oily goodness with a nozzle that prevents sprays and spills, and soft ingredients that make it perfect addition to anyone's morning routine. From coconut to castor, all these oils are hand chosen. After using this herbal blend, the biggest thing I noticed is how soft, how strong my hair was, and how good I feel. Pick up your bottle today and make your beard the star of the show.
Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about this jet fuel shortage that is being spoken about in Europe and the US, because these are about to happen within weeks. Now, the US is still saying like around June 1st, there will be flights canceled. Probably most flights will be canceled at that point. It's already happening in Europe. There are videos out there, y'all, where people fly over to Europe and they can't get back. They're being told it's not enough jet fuel to fly them back to America. So some people are literally stuck over there. So Europe, they're saying 6 weeks, the US 3 weeks. But the bottom line is, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the scripture that says that every person will return back to their nation. So, and I notice many of the people on the videos that can't fly back are white. And they were able to fly out of the US to Europe, but they're not able to get out of Europe and fly back to the US. You know, think about it. That's definitely one way the Most High can get people back in their own lands, where you may leave, but you may not be able to come back. And the thing is, when I look at those videos, you can see they're upset. You know, their intention was to go over there for, I guess, vacation or for business and get back here, and they can't. Now, we know there's really technically only 2 ways they can get here, and that's by plane and that's by boat. And we know boat is going to take way longer for them to make it back here. So, y'all be careful about booking flights this summer. Now, I know there are circumstances that you just can't help it, especially if someone in your family passed and they may be in a different country. You know, I do understand those things. I really, truly do. But be careful, because you may find yourself in a situation where, yeah, you may be able to get out of the US, but you may have a hell of a time trying to come back. And make sure, if you are in that situation, you have the number of every embassy of the countries that you are traveling to. Make sure you have the embassy phone number, you know, because I know when most people go on vacation or travel on business, you only have a limited amount of money with you because you're anticipating coming back. So if you have a limited amount of funds, you may not be able to pay your way while you're there. That's why you must get in touch with the embassy and see if you can even get there. So y'all, you know, just hearing that, because I know we were supposed to have a family gathering in my family in August. And I thought about going, but after seeing all of the things that are unfolding right now, chances are, y'all, I'm probably not going to go. You know, I would love to see my family, but I don't want to fly somewhere and then get stuck there. I love them, but damn, like, I got to come back home. You know, I got to come back home. So, y'all, let's get into this. Shalom to everybody in the chat. I hope you're all doing well. There we go. You know, things are going to get tough. And I know one thing about us, nobody is more resilient on this planet than us, because we have gone through it no matter what law or policies or rules or trying to sabotage us. We always got a way of bouncing back. And there's nothing they can do about that. It has not been nothing they could do about our ability to bounce back for hundreds of years. And they still can't do nothing about it, y'all. And I'm just counting on, and I know I can, because we are the children of the Heavenly Father, us getting through this summer with flying colors, y'all. Only because we know how to rise to the occasion no matter what it is. Sometimes we are broken, but somewhere down the line, we're going to build up our strength and keep pushing on, because that's who we are. So they can shut down the gas stations, shut down the airports, the trains, the buses, everything. And trust me, we're going to find a way, because we always do. That's what the Most High made us for. So let me share my screen. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you. Okay.
Will you have to cancel your holiday plans this summer? The International Energy Agency has warned us there's only a few weeks of jet fuel supply left in Europe. But the UK airline industry says no flights are being cancelled due to fuel shortages. So, who's right? Some airlines are making cuts. Lufthansa has scrapped 20,000 flights over the summer, but it started with unprofitable routes. The price of jet fuel has doubled since the war started. Some carriers, like Ryanair, have insulated themselves from that through what's called hedging. They've already made deals to buy most of the fuel they need at a fixed price. Any airline which hasn't hedged will be particularly vulnerable. Some argue the UK is more vulnerable than other countries to this crisis. We consume nearly 12 million tonnes of jet fuel a year, but we only produce 3.4 million tonnes. So more than 70% of the fuel we need is imported, and over 60% of those imports come from 3 countries in the Middle East: Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. So how can UK carriers sound so confident that they can keep going? Well, more jet fuel is coming in from the States. The USA may be providing up to half our jet fuel imports. Keeping hold of those supplies will be critical if holidaymakers' plans aren't to be ruined this summer.
The United States has approximately 21 days left before we run out of jet fuel. So airports and airplanes are about to start running out of fuel.
Good God, why am I having Tucker Carlson flashbacks with diesel? Having 21 days of supply does not mean we're going to run out in 21 days. Last year, in 2025, we had 22 days of supply all year long. Days of supply is just an inventory number. It's not when you're going to run out. We make all the jet fuel we need. We'll have 21 days today, 21 days tomorrow, 21 days the next day. See how that works? It doesn't go down. If it don't go down, you can't run out, man. We could have 15 days of supply. It wouldn't matter. We make all we need. It only matters if we completely stopped making all jet fuel altogether, which is not a thing, by the way. Now, Europe having 6 weeks supply is actually concerning because they don't make as much as they need. See? Yeah, they need to import probably 350,000 barrels of jet fuel a day to maintain their inventory. And right now they're not getting any imports. So their 6 week number will shrink. Our 21 day number will not. Matter of fact, it might rise. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're not running out of jet fuel. The only reason we dropped from 22 days of supply to 21 days of supply over an entire year, by the way, was because we're exporting more. We're not running out of jet fuel. Not a thing. Thanks.
Okay. What he said was ridiculous. Number one, last year, since you want to bring up 2025, we were not at war. We were not in a situation where the Strait to Hormuz was closed. We were not in a situation where we were dealing with shortages. Sure, we were dealing with inflation, but we were not dealing with shortages. So it's a hell of a difference between us having 21 or 22 days of jet fuel in 2025, and we are dealing with the whole game changer now in 2026. So I definitely don't agree with him. And I say always be on the side of caution as long as these Gentiles are running everything. But let's go on.
Rumors are rising that supplies of jet fuel in Europe could be running low. Europe is extremely reliant on imports of jet fuel. That's very different from the United States that makes a lot of its own. And Europe has to rely a lot on supplies from the Middle East. About 75% of its jet fuel supplies is coming from that region. And supplies of that jet fuel have been choked off because of the problems with the Strait of Hormuz, ships not moving through since the attacks in February pretty much. And that is raising concerns that Europe will not have enough jet fuel for the demand that they have in the coming weeks and months.
Major airlines are cancelling flights and governments around the world are warning of jet fuel shortages. So what's going on? And are our summer holidays really under threat from the Iran war? Let's try and answer some of these questions.
Now, figures show that 13,000 flights have been cancelled globally this month due to rising fuel prices caused by the war in the Middle East. Data from the aviation analytics firm Cirium shows that Istanbul and Munich have seen the largest cuts.
With the Strait of Hormuz closed for nearly 10 weeks, much of the world is running out of jet fuel, and summer vacation plans could be disrupted, energy experts told Forbes. Europe's jet fuel inventories are expected to dip below the International Energy Agency's critical 23-day shortage threshold sometime in June, according to a recent Goldman Sachs research note to investors. In mid-April, the head of the International Energy Agency warned that Europe had, quote, maybe 6 weeks of jet fuel left, and poorer countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America would feel the impact even sooner.
Across Europe, airports like this one are gearing up for the busy summer tourism season. But jet fuel has doubled in price. There are looming concerns of a shortage, and the conflict in the Middle East is making everything unpredictable. The EU says at the moment there is no shortage of jet fuel inside the EU. However, today they released a document seemingly aimed at two things. First, preventing any sort of a shortage, allowing airlines to more easily use jet fuel from outside the EU, particularly from the US. And secondly, clarifying the rights of passengers if there is a shortage of jet fuel.
The first thing to say is the price of jet fuel has risen faster and further than any oil product, including petrol and diesel. It more than doubled in price after the war began, and it reached a peak even higher than our Ukraine war and the global financial crisis. And the fundamental reason for that is there is a gap in the supply of global jet fuel. This shows supply and demand without the Middle East and China for reasons we'll come back to. But you can see the production, the black area, is 5.7 million barrels a day. It's short of demand, current demand, by 600,000 barrels a day. That's the red shaded area. And take that away, and the airline industry and the global economy has got a problem. Now, normally that gap is more than filled by exports from the Middle East, the green area. 450,000 barrels a day typically would come from the Gulf, and 250,000 a day exported from China. Combined, you can see they actually export a little more than the market would require right now. But those supplies have disappeared overnight through force and by choice. The Gulf is effectively closed because of the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, and China has imposed an export ban on jet fuel to protect.
Air travel across parts of Europe is becoming more expensive, fuel markets are tightening again, and global energy instability is reshaping the aviation industry in real time. But while many economies are struggling to secure stable fuel supplies, something remarkable is happening in Africa. Nigeria's Dangote refinery is rapidly emerging as one of the most important new fuel suppliers in the global market. And according to recent reports, exports of jet fuel from the refinery surged by more than 770% as European buyers increasingly turned toward Africa for supply. That number shocked energy analysts because for decades, the global energy relationship usually worked in the opposite direction. Africa exported crude oil, Europe refined it. Then refined products were sold back into African markets. But now, the balance is beginning to shift, and the implications are enormous. Because this is no longer only about fuel, it is about industrial power, economic leverage, global supply chains, and the changing position of Africa in the world economy. For years, Europe depended heavily on complex international fuel supply networks connected to the Middle East, Russia, Asia, and major Western refiners. But geopolitical instability, shipping disruptions, sanctions, rising energy prices, and global conflicts have made those supply chains increasingly fragile. Every major disruption sends shockwaves through aviation markets. Airlines face higher costs, ticket prices rise, travel demand weakens, and airports across Europe feel the pressure almost.
Jet fuel prices more than doubled because of the Middle East crisis. And Singapore Airlines just said the full hit hasn't even landed yet. SIA's fuel bill already ate 27% of total costs this year. And next year, even worse as lagged pricing kicks in. Fares are up, but not enough to cover it. That means tighter margins across the board for airlines, cargo operators, and anyone moving time-sensitive freight. SAF is on the table too, but it's still running at $281 a barrel. If you're sourcing aviation fuel, planning cargo moves, or trading SAF, HGT is navigating this market right now. Reach out to us. As always, news creates the move, and we help you capture it. Message HGT today.
Jet fuel is in short supply. Be very careful, boys, because of Hormuz. Private, why are we short 32,000 gallons of jet fuel? Because the Air Force accidentally leaked it into the Potomac River, Sergeant. Excuse me, what? That's right, Sergeant. Maryland U.S. Air Base, home to Air Force One, leaked 32,000 gallons of jet fuel into the water just these last few months and didn't tell anyone about it, sir. Private, I know we love freedom in this here country, but we don't need to free the jet fuel. Hot damn. Why was I not told about this? How could this have happened? Well, let me tell you how it could have happened. December last year, the U.S. base in Maryland reportedly failed a critical leak safety test. Actions were not taken or not fast enough, and by February of this year, 10,000 gallons of jet fuel had reportedly already been lost. And by lost, I mean leaked into the environment. They hoped it wasn't into the environment, just leaking into other parts of the U.S. airbase, which sounds to me at least still like a bad situation, a slippery situation, you could say. By March the 23rd, though, an observer reported oil, rainbow shining the way oil does, on the surface of the water in a nearby river and reported it. And the Defense Department was like, yeah, that's my bad. That's our bad. that is us. And they made a phone call to the state of Maryland itself. Hello, Maryland. It's the it's the federal government, the military to be precise. We leaked oil into one of your rivers, very, very deadly. Don't swim in it and don't drink it. All right. Oorah. Okay, bye. Now, how much fuel exactly was dumped has not been confirmed yet. Oh, that was a mission with the prop with the hat. And it doesn't help that my hair. Anyway, it's not been confirmed how much exactly. So it could be a higher number, but 32,000 is the number that has so far been reported. And according to Futurism, who wrote an article on this story just 2 days ago, this is the second oil spill, well, not oil spill in the conventional sense. This is the second fuel leak the US Department of Defense has, quote, lied about, end quote, in just the last few months. The state inspectors of Maryland, hearing the news and being tasked, arrived at the scene of the, not crime, but scene of the problem to assess the damage that had been done to the environment. And they wrote, quote, efforts to properly control, contain, and clean up the release of fuel have been minimal and insufficient. Deadlines are now considered past due, end quote. Past due deadlines. That's not good. Anyway, that's the news. Oh, that's nice. Some stuff in there. I think biscuit fragments. You know when sometimes you suba, you dunk the biscuit and the McVitie's biscuit just breaks off into your tea. You're like, oh man.
Jet fuel left before cancellation start. This is according to a study done by the DWU Consulting Group. The EU is a little bit better with about 6 weeks left, but 21 days, according to DWU, basically airlines going to start running out of jet fuel and cancellation is going to have to start happening. Folks, my name is Nick. Let me know what you think about this in the comments.
You might have to cancel your vacation this summer because you might not be able to get on a plane. And this has nothing to do with Elizabeth Warren and Spirit Airlines and everything to do with a jet fuel shortage. You see, about 10% of every barrel of oil is used for jet fuel. Big issue is the fact that most of the jet fuel crossed the Strait of Hormuz. Further, a lot of the jet fuel was processed in Middle Eastern refineries. A lot of them have actually been hit by drone strikes. Funny enough, the United States is fine. We have more than enough jet fuel to fuel our planes perfectly well. Global prices still affect US prices, which is why flights are going to get more expensive. That capacity can't come online quick enough because even though the United States has increased capacity, the sheer drain from Europe and Asia not being able to get jet fuel is still hurting consumers.
Jet fuel shortage scaremongering is still happening in the press, causing major panic unnecessarily. My name's Jake, a travel expert. If you're not already following me, hit the follow button now because I share top tips, travel news and recommendations on a daily basis. So The Sun has released this article stating that over 13,000 flights have been affected regarding jet fuel shortages, even though that's not necessarily the case. The worst thing is it's clearly clickbait because it says, check this article to find out if you're affected. And when you read the article, it says nothing about any airlines that cancelled, no list of ones that have been affected, pure and utter clickbait. And before you start shouting at me in the comments saying, yes, Jake, but flights have been cancelled, it's not because of fuel shortages. It's because flights are being condensed. Flight condensing isn't anything new. It's something that's happened in the aviation industry for years. But because of the fuel shortages situations, 2 and 2 are being added together and coming up with 5. Currently at Manchester Airport, and everything on the board is looking great. There's no signs of cancellations, no signs of delays. The scaremongering really just needs to stop so everyone can start looking forward to their holidays. Save this video and send it to all of your friends that are worried about flight cancellations due to fuel shortages, and make sure you're following me to stay up to date with all of the latest travel news.
All right, y'all. It just seems like this is going to be an interesting summer. And all I got to say is a road trip don't seem so bad after all. But then again, it does with the high fuel prices. I mean, what do you do if you really have to travel? It's really making it difficult all the way around, where you really won't be able to travel too much beyond where you live, especially with the fuel prices. And actually, I saw more videos over the weekend where people were showing where the prices went up even more for gas. And I'm seeing prices like $8, $9 a gas. That is outrageous for gas prices to even be that high. But I saw some that were that high. That's crazy. So y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. I have another live coming up, and it's going to go back to reparations because, these folks seem to think everybody should get something except for us. And that's not going over well with a lot of our people, and they are really speaking out. So we'll get into that at 1:45. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support, and I will see you then. Shalom, family.